Hello everyone, welcome back on the channel. So with Christmas around the corner, I decided that today we're going to be making a Yule log. It's not the typical one, there is some twists and turns in it, but you will see it's going to be delicious. So it's going to have a raspberry puree, a vanilla whipped ganache, and the chocolate patachoux cake. It's going to be delicious. So let's start now with all the preparations that we can make the day before. Because that's also what is great with this recipe, is that you can make a lot of preparations ahead. There are 4 of them which you can do the day before, and actually you have to do it 6 hours before at least. So why not just doing it the day before, so that on the day itself you can just assemble everything together and then it's ready to serve for your friends. Let's dive right in. We will start by creating our own mold to pour in our raspberry puree, which will be in the center of our Yule log. For that, you will need acetate, and with the help of adhesive paper, craft a cylinder of 30 cm long and 2.5 cm in diameter. When you roughly have these dimensions, add more adhesive paper so that the acetate stays into that shape. Then, use cling film all around and at the bottom of the cylinder to avoid any leakage of the puree that we will pour in it. Now let's prepare the raspberry puree. For that, I will add 5.6 grams of pectin NH to 84 grams of granulated sugar. Just combine them roughly and set it aside. In a saucepan, I have 420 grams of raspberry. I used frozen raspberry, but you can use also fresh raspberry. Just heat them up on the stove. It should be hot to the touch, but not boiling. Now add the sugar and pectin and mix it quickly with the hot raspberries and bring the mixture to a boil. Then pass the mixture through a sieve to remove the pits from the raspberries. Then pour the raspberry puree in the crafted mold. Here, I didn't seal well enough the bottom and all the liquid escaped the mold. After reinforcing and sealing it properly with additional cling film, I could pour the puree in the mold, seal the top and place it directly in the freezer. Place some cling film over the rest of the raspberry puree and set it aside in the fridge. Now it's time to prepare a vanilla mascarpone cream. In a saucepan, add 50 grams of sugar to 200 grams of whipping cream. Then add 6 grams of powdered gelatin that you previously rehydrated with 36 grams of cold water. Heat the preparation until everything is well combined and then pour the hot mixture over 110 grams of mascarpone and add some vanilla extract. Mix the preparation to ensure that the mascarpone is well incorporated. As my cup was too small, I transferred the whole preparation into a bigger cup before adding 280 grams of cold whipping cream. Mix once more to ensure a good distribution of the fresh cream with the rest. Cover the cream with cling film directly onto the surface of the cream and place in the fridge. Let's now work on the chocolate chew batter. Sift 6.5 grams of cocoa powder with 52 grams of all-purpose flour. In a saucepan, pour 65 grams of whole milk and add 13 grams of butter. Bring slowly to a boil. When the butter is dissolved and the milk is boiling, take the pan out of the heat source and add all at once the dry ingredients. Mix vigorously until it forms a dough. It's the same process as you would do when you are making a choux pastry. Put the chocolate dough into a bowl and add 40 grams of melted dark chocolate. Start mixing and slowly add 72 grams of egg yolks and 45 grams of whole eggs. When it's all mixed, set aside. Now let's make a meringue. Whisk 110 grams of egg whites, adding slowly 52 grams of sugar until it reaches soft peaks. Isn't this a beautiful soft peak? I think it is. Then incorporate gently the meringue into the chocolate dough until you get this light mixture. I'm sorry, but I had a camera problem and that part was not recorded. Pour the mixture into a silicone mat, spread evenly and bake it at 160 degrees C for about 10 to 12 minutes. Take the sponge out of the oven and immediately cover with parchment paper. Flip the sponge over. You should end up with the parchment paper at the bottom and the silicone mat on top, and let it cool down at room temperature before placing it in the fridge for at least 6 hours or preferably overnight. Now let's work on the chocolate decor. Melt slowly in the microwave 200 grams of dark chocolate by pulsing 30 seconds and then mixing. Then pour that melted chocolate onto an acetate paper, or in this case, a guitar paper. Spread it in a thin layer, as thin as possibly can, and then place a second acetate paper or guitar paper on top. Then roll the chocolate sheet around your rolling pin and secure it with a rubber band and leave it to crystallize. And now it's time to assemble our Yule log. Start by peeling the silicone mat and peeling off the parchment paper from the sponge. Spread a thin layer of raspberry puree over the sponge and set aside while we are whisking our vanilla mascarpone cream. Whisk the cream into your stand mixer until you reach a spreadable consistency. It should not be too soft, but it should not also be too hard, because we will use this cream both inside the Yule log and outside the Yule log. Now it's time to spread the cream onto our sponge. Here you can see it's not easily spreadable because I've whisked the cream just a tiny bit too much. I've let it whisking a few seconds too long, which makes it a little bit harder to spread over the sponge. But anyway, the taste is great. When the cream is spread, now it's time to add the raspberry puree that we have frozen and made of it an insert. We are just cutting now the acetate mold that we had crafted, and we will then put it directly into our sponge, and then we will roll the sponge over that frozen insert. Make sure that you roll tightly the sponge over that raspberry insert. And now, with the knife, cut both ends of your Yule log so that it will create a wonderful cross-section of your Yule log. Place your bake directly on the serving plate and look at this wonderful cross-section here. Isn't it neat? And now it's time to spread the rest of the mascarpone vanilla cream around the Yule log. Time to unroll now the chocolate, which we let crystallize around a rolling pin. While unrolling it, it will create big shards of chocolate. That's the effect that we are aiming for, to have those big shards so that we can place them all around our Yule log and try to imitate a wood log. And now we get to the final touch. Dust some icing sugar on top of the chocolate and you will get a fantastic dessert to give to your guests on Christmas Eve. And this is the result. So you see, we've got the raspberry puree in the middle, we've got the whipped vanilla ganache in a roll, and then of course the chocolate sponge which we've rolled into a rolled Yule log. There is also a fine layer of raspberry puree on the chocolate sponge, and then on top we've put the vanilla whipped ganache as well, and we've made some chocolate pieces to put around and make it look like, I would say, a little log. So this is my interpretation of forêt noire, but normally forêt noire are made with cherries, and for this recipe I decided let's try something else and let's do it with raspberries. So I hope you're going to make this recipe. It's very easy to make and you can make a lot of things in advance, so it's perfect if you've got a lot of things to prepare for Christmas. So do it and tell me what you think about it. See you soon. Bye!